So, Joe, we're going conference by conference for our way too early projections here. We go to the ACC in this one. What says you? What are your ACC projections? Way too early 2024 ACC outcome. How do you see it?
Yeah, right now I think that this is a two-team race as things have played out over the past couple of weeks and we finished up this transfer portal period of time. Florida State, to me, has done the most in terms of retaining some of their top talent and then going and bringing in a bunch of blue chip players that weren't getting onto the field at other places. We joked about how they picked apart the Alabama bench, but in reality, it's a good strategy. Get as much talent as you can.
Pass rusher from Georgia.
Exactly. They, to me, have arguably maybe even improved on the defensive side of the football. They've got some holes to fill offensively. DJU is a steady presence. I have to go and pick them to win the conference again. I feel like they're spending the money. They've got the most intent. The second one, and it's a total wild card, is Miami. It all comes down to what version of Cam Ward do we get and how good their offensive line is. One would expect with the young guys that played as well as they did this past year and the guys coming up and how good of an offensive line developer Mario Cristobal is and just recruiting that position, that they would be even better this year. Defensive questions that need to be answered. Ruben Bain is a phenomenal young football player who continues to get better and better. They're just a wild card. So Florida State for me is the clear indicator.
Sorry, there for like 15 seconds, I got distracted because Jameson Williams just took a reverse to the house.
I saw it.
I agree with you on Miami. I still think that there's question marks on Cam Ward. Okay, I do think that he has better personnel around him. I do question, obviously, the coaching. Look, Miami has not had an issue with bringing in talent, Joe. I mean, they're one of the more talented teams in the ACC. I mean, like, they have talent, right? Like, they have dudes. I just don't. Joe, at what part am I going to come at, or I got to see it from Miami. Like, here are teams that I would take over Miami right now because I just got to see it. I'd take Louisville. I 100% would take Louisville.
They literally just did it with a worse roster.
I mean, I would take Louisville. And look what they're doing in the portal, by the way. Like, it's not like they're not going in the portal and getting dudes too. I'm going to say it until I'm blue in the face. Joe, Clemson still had more success than Miami did the last 2 years. Okay, and so with more talent. Like, Joe, you can look at Miami and say to yourself, oh, well, they have had overall better talent than Clemson has. I mean, look at it. I mean, you can look at recruiting. You can look at the portal. And Joe, they're still making bad decisions. I agree with you to the fullest extent. Miami has the talent to get there and be there in the ACC. The question becomes, okay, for me, can your coaching staff get this thing right? Now, let me throw a very big wild card at you. You ready?
Yeah.
Does one of these new teams coming in the ACC maybe make a little, shock the world and maybe make a little push in the ACC coming in here?
Stanford, Cal, and SMU?
Well, I do think SMU, for what
SMU I will concede.
Okay, that's where I was leading. I do think SMU could shock some people. I don't think they can get to a conference championship game. But let me ask you this question, Joe. If a scenario came out, I don't know their schedule, and this is on me for not looking this up. I mean, you 1,000% sure that Miami doesn't fumble the bag against a team like SMU?
I actually do like you bringing up SMU because SMU, to me, showed a lot of positive signs this year for how good they look.
And a hell of a coach, dude.
He is a hell of a coach. And the biggest thing that pissed me off this cycle is that they should have been the team that played Oregon instead of Liberty in the New Year's Six. And that game would have been much closer. I think Preston Stone, not really an NFL draft prospect, but a former highly recruited kid that picked to play at SMU. And I think he's shown some really nice things. That roster is underrated. I'm going to go as far as to say I wouldn't be shocked if they don't have a really good season in 2024. They do not play Miami. They do play Florida State, Louisville, and that's really their only 2 hard games. They get Cal, they get Stanford, which is a huge advantage. They also get to play the likes of Pitt and Boston College and Virginia. I actually think that you bring up a really intriguing projection here with SMU to not win the conference, but if there is a surprise team, I'm absolutely picking them. I don't think any of the other teams in the ACC really have the same level of commitment monetarily and also the best coaching staff, as good of an established coaching staff as what SMU has. Sure, Syracuse has looked good this offseason, but it's the first year under Fran Brown. And Louisville was as good as they were this past season, and I'm rooting for them, and I think that they could challenge to be that second-best team. But SMU could shock some people. I don't think that's a crazy take to have when talking about the ACC this early.
I had it. One final thing for me on Miami. I know you're going to laugh at this. I told you, I think it was when we were making projections this past year. Like, for example, I don't like Miami going to the Swamp Week 1. I hate it for them.
No, that's a shitty start.
Cam Ward, we're going to find out if Cam Ward can play really quickly. Now, I know Florida and Billy Napier have a lot of issues. I get it. But, look, man, that's a place that's really tough to play. Another thing for me, and probably the final thing for me, I hadn't talked about Florida State yet, Joe. I just really believe that Florida State, when it's all said and done, they're the best coach team in the conference. They're the most talented team in the conference. The way and what the things that they're doing in the portal is utter ridiculous. I do think that they might have some depth issues along both lines of scrimmage if they have injuries here or there. But, man, they're just so talented across the board. I think Mike Norvell has finally figured it out there. It's really hard for me, at least in January, on January 28th, 2024, the year of our Lord, not to see them winning the ACC again. It's really tough for me. Really, really tough. So I'm pretty high on Florida State again. Think they're going to make the playoffs. Just really tough for me not to see. Now, who do you trust more? Let me ask you this. Who do you trust more, DJU or Cam Ward?
DJU, because of here's the way that question is brought to the table here is who do I trust more means who's got the higher floor, who's the steadier player. It's DJU. DJU doesn't necessarily have the same level of ceiling that Cam Ward has, but I mean, we saw a lot of steadiness from him this year at Oregon State that helped them win as many games as they did, but they fell against the top opponents because he's not that elite level guy, especially when he doesn't have a super talented roster, which he did not have at Oregon State. But Cam Ward's just nuts, man. If he gets on a hot streak at like the second half of the season, I don't see why they can't end up going on to win the conference and end up in the playoff, because he is that physically gifted of a player and one that can take over a football game when he's got nothing around him. Washington State, and I'm going to sound like a jackass saying this because I was so high on them at the beginning of the season. He kept them in that Washington game because he made a lot of plays himself. It wasn't like he was getting help, man. That one back corner of the end zone throw that he had against Washington that made the game close was all because of him, all because of his timing and his touch and his ball delivery and all that shit. He is such a good player. So, I mean, that's where this whole debate becomes really tricky, because would I rather go with the more trustworthy player or the one that is going to be more dangerous in a late game head-to-head situation?
I think DJU's just had so much experience in college too. Like I think it's going to be really intriguing for me to see how they utilize him. So we'll see. Joe, I'm really last part for me here. I'm really interested to watch Syracuse. I'm really interested to watch Syracuse. I got to tell you something. I think Fran Brown and the boys, man, they sneaky, had a pretty decent little portal haul here now. All right. I'm not saying Syracuse going to the ACC championship game. I would not be shocked if Syracuse is scratching on the door 8-4, 9-3. I'm serious, dude. I'm dead serious. Give me Fran Brown and the boys as the team who's scratching on the surface.
Yeah, and I love. Look, I'm more of a Kyle McCord apologist than most people are. I think that he's in a spot where there's going to be.
You got a Kyle McCord tattoo, I heard.
Shut up. I think that this is a good situation for him because there's not going to be as much pressure. Look out for what he and Aronde Gadsden, holy shit. Aronde Gadsden, who's their tight end wide receiver, who had a really big 2022 season, missed a little bit of time in 2023 because of injury. The guy is really freaking gifted, had 900 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. Gadsden and him could end up putting up some crazy numbers. So yeah, no, I freaking love Fran Brown. I love what they bring to the table and could do this year.
Very true. All right, that's it from me on the ACC. I don't know about you. You
got
got anything
the ACC?
else?
No, I don't have anything else. You hate the ACC.
I don't hate the who.
I'm joking.
I do think. All right, I'm gonna step in here. You ready?
Okay.
I do think that they, on paper, should not be as weak of a conference as they are. I got to be real with you on something. I'm not 1,000% sure that the Big 12 doesn't have some teams from top to bottom better than them.
The top teams in the Big 12, actually, yeah, I don't disagree with that, actually. The Big 12 is a better conference this year going into next year because now they have Utah and they've got Arizona, and Colorado is a little bit of a question mark, but could be a good football team in 2024 if things go well. No, I don't disagree with that. There's more depth.
And look, I got to be, are you 1,000% sure that UCF couldn't beat half the teams in the ACC?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think that like the 4th worst Big 12 team could probably go 8-5 in the conference.
Could. Easily could. All right. ACC, I still love you, even though you think I hate you. I love me. They call me ACC Blake. You didn't know?
BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.